Today is Sunday, January 30th, and this recording is taking place in Ankeny, Iowa. I'm Connor Schabel, and I'm interviewing Joe Morr, who was born on September 17th, 1936.
50s and 60s. Earlier than that, I lived on School Street, 315 School Street. That was right across from our school. School was Nevelin. That was our high school, and we had our grade school there too. Then in 1950, we purchased our first new home in the first subdivision in Ankeny, and that was called South Lawn Drive. No, I enlisted right after I graduated from school in 1954. At the time, we lived at 540 South Lawn Drive in Ankeny. I joined the Navy because I was working half days going to school. I played sports, so I didn't have a lot of time. Worked on Saturdays. I was only making 50 cents an hour. There wasn't any jobs available in Ankeny, so I talked my buddy and I said, let's go down and join the Navy. Well, he decided not to, and I went on ahead and went on with it. Korea, I got the benefit, but most of the Korean War was over in 1953. The Vietnam War was on, but I was a Navy recruiter in St. Louis, and I watched them build the Arch. The Cuban Missile Crisis, we was on the West Coast, and then of course that was the East Coast, and of course those West Coast sailors said, let them East Coast sailors take care of it. But they decided to take Fibron 7, which is an amphibious group, through the Panama Canal, and I'd already been through the Panama Canal, because we changed home ports from Boston, Massachusetts over to Long Beach, California. So I'd already been through the canal, but it's an experience that I think everybody ought to go through, especially if they're in the Navy. You pull up and they got what they call donkeys. They're little trains and they pull you from one, fills up with water, then you go to the next one, fills up with water, then you go to the next one. And there's about, I think, 3 or 4 locks you go through. So it's quite an experience. Most memorable on the USS Belgrove, which is an LSD-2, I had the ship's basketball team. We played all over the Mediterranean. We only had one team that beat us. That was a semi-professional team. We played in Udine was the name of the town. It was near the Russian border. They had Joe Allen from Bradley University. His knees were bad, and so he didn't make the NBA. But he was their star player in this team. They gave me an Italian Olympic medal as a gift. We exchanged gifts every time we played. And so I received a replica of Italian Olympic medal. I've still got it to this day. We played the University of Trieste. Nobody in the Mediterranean or the naval station in San Diego could beat that Belgrove team. I mean, I had a bunch of studs on it. Excellent. We had excellent chow in, that's what we call food, chow. We call stuff like candy bars and stuff, that's pogey bait. That's just names you use. You use bulkheads, all kinds of funny names. Scuttlebutt, that's where you go get a drink of water. But the food was good. Mm-hmm. And during World War II, of course, they didn't have refrigeration. So a lot of times those old World War II, I'll talk about sailors because I'm familiar with the Navy. A lot of the stuff rotted, but they still had to eat part of it. Or they didn't have refrigeration. That was the bad thing. So, World War II was a lot tougher. And the ships were a lot older. The ship I was on, the LSD, that was a World War II ship. And it was old, decrepit, and man, it was an old one.
Yeah.
LSD-2, the oldest LSD in the Navy, except the Ashland LSD-1, but she was out of commission. We were the oldest amphibious LSD in the Navy. Wow. My wife and I wore St. Christopher medals. That used to be a Catholic gentleman. He's called a traveler. Since then, I think the Catholic religion has dumped him or don't do it anymore, but we wore St. Christopher medals. My wife had one and I had one. On the carrier, we had with smokers. You could have a guy in your division that thought he could box. Well, he fought a guy in another division that thought he could box. So, and I also had the basketball team on the carrier. So we bought girls' basketball teams on board the ship. When my service ended, I came back to Ankeny. I worked in my dad's filling station, which is used to be the old DX station on First Street and Ankeny Boulevard. And then Mr. Paul Lowry called me, and I'd been recommended by some city folks. He asked me if I would manage the bookstore at the Des Moines Area Community College. I owed my dad everything because, he only had an 8th grade education, but he was always good to me and my little sister and mom. And, back then times were tough. There was a war going on in 41. We had an ordnance plant here in Ankeny in 41 in the Midwest. Everybody came from everywhere to work at that ordnance plant in 1941. So, they moved it to the Midwest. But my little sister, told my dad that I wasn't going to leave. And so my dad came around and said, you need to go. So I went down. I started and managed. I had 3 bookstores from 1970 to 1981 at the Des Moines Area Community College. So I was very lucky to get that job.